Hey everyone, this is Mason Hutchison, and you're listening to HerbRally, your daily herbal podcast. We come out with new episodes about 5 days a week, so be sure to tune in often. Our goal for the show is to help you along your herbalist journey, no matter what stage you're at. We have over 697 episodes, so feel free to peruse those episodes, and you're bound to find something of interest. Before we get into the show, I want to let you know about the Herbal Foundations program brought to you by the Green Path Herb School, longtime supporters of HerbRally. So the Herbal Foundations certificate program is valuable both for herb enthusiasts and professionals wanting to add to their healing repertoire. The program includes herbs for body systems, that's respiratory system, cardiovascular system, nervous system, and so on. There's medicine making, which includes tinctures, syrups, salves, herbal oils, etc. There's wildcrafting ethics and medicinal gardening basics. There's herbal actions, materia medica, and a whole lot more. So I will leave a link to the Herbal Foundations program brought to you by the Green Path Herb School. I'll leave a link to that in the podcast show notes, so be sure to check it out there. Just want to let you know it is a year-long program running from October of this year to October of next year. So it's a full 12 months. And if you'd like to save $100, you could register by September 15th. That's coming up. Just use coupon code H as in herb, F as in Frank, 2023HR. I'll leave a link to that exact coupon code in the podcast show notes as well. But so if you want to save $100 by September 15th, well, you got to use the coupon code by September 15th. Use coupon code HF2023HR. Otherwise, the program does begin on October 21st. So even if you don't make it in time for the coupon code, you could always register up until October. So check them out, greenpathherbschool.com, or click on the link in today's podcast show notes. Also, before we get into the show, I want to thank the presenting sponsor for the Herbalist Hour, and that is Oshala Farm. I've been friends with the owners of Oshala Herb Farm for many years now. That's Elise and Jeff Higley. They grow over 80 medicinal herbs on their farm, and you could purchase those herbs. They're dried. They also sell tea blends and other herbal products as well. So can't recommend them enough because they are good friends. I know I've been to their farm many times, and they produce a very high quality product. So if you're looking to get some organic herbs, definitely check out Oshala Farm at oshalafarm.com. Huge thanks to Oshala Farm for sponsoring the show. And last but not least, I want to thank our HerbRally Schoolhouse members for being a member and helping support the HerbRally podcast. If you'd like to learn more about HerbRally Schoolhouse, simply go to herbrally.com/schoolhouse. Use coupon code podcast to get your first 30 days for free. Then it's only $10 a month after that. And once again, thank you to our HerbRally Schoolhouse members. Your support really means a lot to us. You're helping us keep the lights on here at HerbRally. So today's episode is an interview on the Herbalist Hour, and it's with Taryn Forrelli, who is the Chief Science Officer over at Traditional Medicinals, which is almost 50 years old now. I can't believe Traditional Medicinals has been around for that long. We talk a little bit about it in the show, but we call that a legacy brand. And it was really nice to get to know Taryn. I've never met her before, but we hear a bit about her story. She also teaches us a bit about chamomile and peppermint. We talk about the herbal industry at large, and it was just a really enlightening conversation, and was really nice to get to know Taryn a bit more. So thank you to Taryn for joining me on the show. If you'd like to learn more about Traditional Medicinals, I'm sure you've heard of them at this point, but you could go to traditionalmedicinals.com and find out more about what they're up to and all of the different awesome teas that they sell. I was actually drinking one of their teas during the episode. So awesome. Well, thanks to Taryn for joining me on the show, and thanks to y'all for listening. I will see you in the next episode. Take care.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and the flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
Welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today I'm joined by Taryn Forrelli. Welcome to the show, Taryn.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to know you a bit more. Actually, we've never met, so this is our first time meeting, so that's exciting. Usually I kind of start with the herbalist's background, but actually I want to start somewhat different with you today. I got to know, what is a chief science officer? So just to let the audience know, Taryn is the chief science officer over at Traditional Medicinals. So can you tell us what a CSO does?
Well, I think it's one of the best titles one can have for for the work that I do personally and my career path. But yeah, Chief Science Officer at Traditional Medicinals oversees quality, research and development, and innovation. And so those are areas that are very near and dear to my heart. I'm a naturopathic physician by training, and I've been working in the dietary supplement industry for about 20 years now. So it's been quite the journey of, I spent 12 years working with New Chapter, also deep roots in herbalism there, have had an opportunity to work at some pretty fun startups, including Ollie, which did a lot of fun formats, gummies primarily. And then did a little bit in cannabis, and also now, at Traditional Medicinals for almost 2 years in this role.
So you are a trained naturopath. Do you still practice naturopathy on the side?
I do not. I did it a little bit when I got out of school, and I found myself really just so wanting to spend so much more time reading about the herbs. And everyone that came in, I would formulate for them. For me, that was just that was the best, is to kind of select the herbs and, put them together. And it was all of my opportunities in my career have been very serendipitous. I happened to have a colleague that was, I was, there's another way I can use this passion and this training that I have. And maybe it's the natural products industry. And lo and behold, New Chapter at the time was wanting to start a practitioner line. And so I was given the opportunity to kind of lead that project there. And that just kind of led to many other opportunities both there and throughout, other projects throughout the industry. So it's been quite the opportunity. I always say I practice indirectly by the products that I help to put out in the world, and that feels really good.
Yeah, New Chapter is a pretty large company, aren't they? They're all over the place. Did I used to buy, say, fish oil capsules from them, or is that a different company?
Omega. Yes, that was
Omega's
the wild Alaskan fish oil, which we launched when I was there.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, it's 11 a.m. here in Wisconsin, and the only Traditional Medicinals tea that I found in my pantry was the Nighty Night. So yeah. I'm actually drinking some Nighty Night right now, but I looked at the ingredients here, and it's got a bunch of my favorites in here. It's got linden.
Yes.
Which I absolutely adore. Were you a part of making this product, or was this already?
I was not. That's one of the OG
old school
ones. Yeah, Traditional Medicinals has been around almost 50 years now. We're going to be celebrating 50 years this coming year, and that's one of the original ones. I believe Rosemary formulated that one. So tried and true. And yes, you can drink it during the day. It just gives you that nice mellow vibe.
I was reading the ingredients, and I don't think any of these are going to knock me out, and they're all personal plant allies. So as we were talking about pre-call, Rosemary Gladstar, I want to say, help at least found it, just like the company I used to work for, Mountain Rose Herbs. Have you had much interaction with Rosemary over the years, or?
So interestingly enough, she's going to be in Sonoma. So the company is based in Sonoma County. That's where it was founded originally, with Rosemary and Drake Sadler, who was her partner at the time. And we have our manufacturing plant there. We have a corporate office, probably about a half hour away, with, that's where our R&D lab and other functions sit. And then there's a guest house. And on Monday, Rosemary is actually going to come and have a little breakfast with some of the herbalists and scientists and plant lovers in the company. So we're looking forward to that.
Man, she's all over the place. I brought up this story before, but I want to say it was 10 years ago. I was hanging out with Rosemary on the free tea bus at the Mother Earth News Fair, and she was talking about, I want to slow down, maybe focus more on retiring and stuff like that. But I feel like she's doing more than ever now. And I'll be seeing her in a couple of weeks at the Great Lakes Herb Fair in Michigan. So pretty excited about that. But okay, so you clarified what a chief science officer does. Thank you. Now let's go back in time a little bit. And how did you first get started in this whole herbalism thing?
I mean, I think that my love for plants goes way back, like most people, to their childhood, where the plants take us into those dreamlike states, those places where our imaginations are really active and stimulate wonder, and they still do that as an adult, right? But it was playing amongst the plants out in the field, I called it, down in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that I just kind of felt like my heart open up, and always, was wanting to be closer to them. I definitely loved science and did well in science in school. And it was like that fascination. I was like, the body is so interesting. And like, I'm always amazed the more I learn about the body, human biology, but also plant biology. And so, yes, I was kind of following this traditional track of pre-med. I want to be a doctor, or at least I thought, that was what you do when you love, the human body. And then, I actually had this moment in undergrad where I was taking plant physiology, also taking human physiology at the same time, and started to piece together that actually some of the chemistries in plants were the same as we have in our body, the neurotransmitters. What plants make melatonin and they make serotonin, and really? That's a little bit like mind-blowing when you first learn those things and you realize our deep connection, just on that chemical level, but also got me wondering, like, well, when we put these plants into our bodies, which we do, as we eat every day and hopefully drink herbal tea, what's happening? And the way I like to think about it is, as these chemistries interact with ours in a very complex and often mysterious ways, it kind of helps to shape, it creates a new lens to see the world through. And that's really exciting, like, because we can actually choose these different lenses to see the world. And in many cases, the plants are working with us to make the world a brighter place, to uplift our mood, to make sure everything's running a little bit more smoothly. And that was super inspiring to me, and, obviously led me to naturopathic medicine as opposed to going the traditional, conventional route there. And I loved naturopathic kind of philosophy, but certainly studying the plants and all the teachers that I met during that time in school really led me to want to go deeper, both on the science, but then even on kind of the whole kind of spiritual connection that we have with plants is also fascinating, and has been, there's always more to learn. So that's kind of been my path. And like I said, I wherever I've been, I've always, like, even when I was at Ollie, which is, a mass channel brand, I would always try to sneak a little plant in there,
Totally.
Some lemon balm in these goodbye stress gummy. Like, these have always been both personal allies for me, but also it's been such a joy to bring them to more people, to help people make those connections, those relationships. And the beautiful thing about being at Traditional Medicinals is that the whole kind of vision and purpose of the company is to bring people in closer relationship. It's not just about like selling product. It's about bringing people in relationship to plants, in service of, people and the planet and the plants. Like, it's that whole kind of system of relating and the impact that can have. It's like, yes, you drink your cup of tea, but that's a gateway into so many other things, so many other good changes in the world.
So much good stuff there. I want to say Traditional Medicinals does such a beautiful job of, being like this respectable, science-based tea company, but at the same time still infusing that plant spirit into all the branding and whatnot. I know it's legit because of you work there, the founders and everyone that works there loves the plants, but yet it's still, I don't know. I love the branding of the website and everything. Y'all do such a great job. This question came up while you were talking. I think you'd be a perfect person to ask. Why do you think, say more mainstream type people are skeptical about how herbs work? You know, I want to say, like, when you drink a cup of coffee, you obviously feel that caffeine running through your system, and everyone accepts that. But why do you think it's hard for people to just kind of understand that these plants do have actual effect on our bodies and whatnot, if that makes sense?
Well, it's, we can certainly go way back into like the AMA and all of that, the Flexner Report, all of these campaigns that started like back in the 1800s to kind of discredit systems of natural medicine, naturopathy being one of them, but just kind of to quiet what had been really, I mean, plants are the original medicine, right? And they still are. The majority of the world still uses, traditional systems of medicine, herbal medicine being, primary to that, as their main form of medicine. So it's really here, like in kind of our Western culture, that we've lost that connection, but it still is alive, very much so. In indigenous cultures within the U.S., we haven't lost it, but what's happened is, kind of that that framework of pharmaceuticals being superior, being safer, being more legitimate, being like, this is the only science. Science is the only form of knowledge. I love science, but I also deeply respect the wisdom of our ancestors, being passed along, and so, we're kind of living in this age, and it's in a time of transition right now, I would say, very much so, which is very exciting. Yes, I think the ideal now is that we have, of course, pharmaceuticals that can be so beneficial to people and have done a lot of good and will continue to, but then, that's not necessarily the answer for everything. And people are, as they become disillusioned, especially with, I find, areas of kind of mental health, like that lens of how we see the world, and, how are we feeling? How do we manage the stress that's at the root of just about everything, every chronic disease? It's like, we need to find ways to be more resilient in the world. And that's where I think people are starting to wake up to this understanding that it is through these connections with the plants and with nature in general that we can find that balance. But the plants have so much to offer, and, media will oftentimes call into question, the efficacy. There's not enough science, or, call out the bad players in the industry. And there are some, sadly, there really are. But then you have companies like Traditional Medicinals and Mountain Rose Herbs that take that work very seriously, take quality very seriously, as well as taking care of where these herbs come from, taking care of the land and the people, so that we can have access to these herbs for generations to come. And I think people can feel really good about that. And what we're really in the business of is educating people as to, again, the fact that these herbs are here. You may find us through, Smooth Move or Throat Coat. Those are kind of like, our biggest branded products, so to speak. And they work, right? It's like, you feel the benefits right away. It's like, wow, the herbs can do something. I feel it. And then what we hope is that becomes a way for people to start to engage with herbalism in a deeper kind of wellness journey way, where it's like, okay, they can be effective. And then you learn about companies, again, that are doing it right, and you engage, and, it's a really beautiful thing.
Well said. Yeah. I think you're right. I think times are changing. I had a friend text me just yesterday, actually, quote unquote mainstream type of person, and they're like, "What do you know about turmeric?" And I was just so thrilled. I was like, "Wow, I never thought that would happen. That's so neat." I love that.
I know. And sometimes I think as herbalists or people that have, these plants in our lives every day, we forget just how beautiful the classics can be.
Totally.
Like, chamomile and peppermint and turmeric. And it's like, they're just always there. And now as mainstream or people are starting to discover them or, start to form relationships with them, it's great because you do want them to be kind of recognized for all that they can do. And at the same time, it's like such a simple and easy way for people to engage with herbalism. So, yeah.
Just a quick break from the show to thank our presenting sponsor, Oshala Farm. Oshala Farm is a beautiful and vibrant certified organic herb farm based in Southern Oregon, where they grow and sell over 80 different plant species. The founders, Elise and Jeff Higley, have been longtime friends, so I highly trust their growing methods and ethics. You'll love the potency and vibrancy of all the herbs they have to offer. To learn more and purchase their herbs and other organic goods, head to oshalafarm.com. So thanks once again to Oshala Farm for sponsoring the Herbalist Hour. Now back to the show. Enjoy. Yep. Well, you teed me up for the next question. I asked you what plants you might want to talk about on the show, and you mentioned chamomile and peppermint. So do you want to tell the audience why you love chamomile?
Yes. Oh, I got a little chamomile going here today.
Yeah,
like chamomile, first of all, it's in the daisy family or the sunflower family. And these are the plants that tend to grow, in these bright, sunny fields, right? I love the fields, where our spirits just kind of naturally come alive, where we feel uplifted. And so, yeah, just seeing chamomile in its natural environment, I think is a place where our nervous systems will naturally start to, regulate and come into that balanced state of calm. So that alone is like, okay, I love this idea of like, you see it and then you smell it, right? And chamomile's got that kind of honey, sweet floral apple scent. And again, that sensory engagement already starts to have an effect on how we feel. And that's why, when you brew a cup of tea, ideally, you kind of like cover it up while you're brewing it. And then you take the opportunity to inhale its aroma before you start to drink it, because then you really get the full experience of what this plant is about. So of course it's a nervine, right? And that's how it's been traditionally used for hundreds of years. And then you bring in the science. And what's so amazing to me is like, love science, like I've said, but the way that scientists are drawn to the plants that they're going to study, whatever it is because of this traditional way of using it. It's like, okay, well, chamomile has been used this way. Let's look at it. Let's try to understand how it works. And lo and behold, when you look at chamomile, you find that there's chemistries in there that bind to receptors in our brain and nervous system and does have a calming effect. It works directly on those pathways that bring us into a state of relaxation. So it kind of course, validates the way that it's been used. So, I love it for all of those reasons. It's kind of one of course, those nurturing go-tos in terms of what do you want to have definitely in the evening, right? Works on digestion, of course, as well, which is all beautiful for kind of preparing us for rest. And then the story that traditional medicinals has in terms of, we really focus on pharmacopoeial grade herbs. I don't know, most people kind of, what does that mean? A pharmacopoeia is a kind of a textbook, so to speak, usually government issued, that basically indicates what the quality parameters should be for an ingredient that's intended to be used for medicinal purposes. And for the herbs that are captured in these pharmacopoeias, it'll say, how do you test the herb for identity and for, basically which part you should use, what's kind of the kind of active marker that basically guarantees that you're getting something that's going to deliver the medicinal effect. And the thing that's interesting with chamomile is the pharmacopoeia says, well, you should only use the flowering tops. That's where those essential oils, that's where apigenin, which is a flavonoid compound that does that magical work in our nervous systems, like that's where that is really captured and concentrated. And so we take great care only to source that flowering top for our chamomile tea. And most of the chamomile that is on the market that's in kind of beverage teas, so to speak, that aren't intended necessarily to be medicinal, just has that whole aerial part, the stem, the leaf. There's nothing wrong with the stems and leaves in terms of, taste or safety, but it's really just diluting the efficacy. You're not getting the full effect of chamomile. So that's a really good one, I think, for helping people understand the difference between a pharmacopoeial grade herb and something that's just kind of for enjoyment.
Yeah, I've never heard that differentiation before, or really thought of it before. Well, thanks for sharing about chamomile. Before we get, say, into peppermint, I did want to, you said something while you were talking about chamomile that makes me want to ask our special guest question from a mutual friend of ours. And this is from Kevin Spellman.
Oh, yeah.
Also
Kevin.
a super brilliant herbalist.
Yes.
And Kevin asks to you, Taryn, and he thought this one might be a doozy, but I think he got this after already talking to you for a few minutes. Do you think understanding traditional ethnobotanical indications and uses are of relevance to modern clinicians?
Oh, yeah. Yes. I mean, that knowledge, like I was saying earlier, it's where it all comes from. And I think that the thing that fascinates me is, even where does that traditional knowledge come from? Like, where did that start? And it's through basically listening to the plants, right?
Totally.
I mean, it's there's this one idea that's been thrown out there that people were just going around and tasting herbs. Like, what does this do? Trial and error, Yeah. But that's not true. If you talk to the, indigenous cultures, it's almost always, well, the plants communicated this. They told us how to use this plant, and we sat with it and we got to know it and we formed a relationship with it. And then, yes, over, many, many generations, that kind of became ingrained. And then what's fascinating too, to me, is that you will have plants that are native to different areas, or they show up in completely different areas of the world and they get used in the same way. Right. And so, it's kind of this knowledge, like I said, that becomes almost our birthright to have access to. But then, yes, I think that's what's sometimes missing for people that come into herbalism only with the scientific lens, is that they miss kind of the full kind of opportunity to understand the plant on different levels. It's not just about its chemistry, but certainly the chemistry is a really beautiful expression of that plant. The chemistry is really how it engages with our body directly. So we want to understand that as much as possible. But quite honestly, plants are really so complex that we can't ever understand it all. So these glimpses that we get through science are really fantastic and validate this traditional knowledge. But I think that reverence for what we know is really important to hold on to as well.
I love that you emphasize, listening to the plants, or say consuming the tea and then listening to your body and how does that feel inside of you. So very, very good answer to that. Thanks for the guest question, Kevin Spellman. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin.
Also, he should be on the show in the next couple of months. So
Awesome.
stay
He's
tuned
so
for
brilliant.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of those teachers where I've taken several of his classes at various conferences, and I think I glean like maybe 5 to 10% of what he's saying. So I'm just not on that level.
Yes. Him and
I'm sure you could hang.
Not well, I mean, he's quite an inspiration. And he's done great work in the world. And I remember back in naturopathic school, he was one of the people that really inspired me again to look at it through these different lenses of the science and the chemistry and again the rich ethnobotanical knowledge. So yes, very much appreciate his contribution to the work.
Does he? I know he does consulting and whatnot. Does he consult for traditional medicinals ever, or
not presently? I don't know that we've engaged him, but I have engaged him personally in the past in some work. So yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, shout out Kevin. And would you like to talk a bit about peppermint?
Yeah, peppermint. So we love peppermint. It's again one of those plants that has made its mark on humans in a very profound way. It's whereas the chamomile is kind of that like calm kind of blanket. Peppermint is that stimulating, like, wow, like, really kind of open up your senses, open up your passageways with that powerful menthol, right? That's kind of one of its key active constituents in there, which is what, if you follow the pharmacopoeia, they say, well, you have to have a minimum of 0.9% menthol in peppermint for it to be of medicinal value or pharmacopoeial grade. And we actually, at Traditional Medicinals, we have been partnering with Trout Lake Farms, which is up in Washington, where literally some of the best peppermint in the world grows because of the climate and the altitude and all the other magical factors that come into play. And also, of course, soil, all of that makes for, the expression of those chemistries in the plant. And so we end up getting closer to 2% menthol in the peppermint that we source from them. And so, again, it's like you kind of breathe in that peppermint and you're kind of having that awakening experience. And at the same time, that kind of cooling sensation just works on your digestion in such a beautiful way. And it feels like, it can work very well with chamomile, of course, as well. But on its own, I think it really shines as an herb that engages us, kind of makes us helps us tune in a little bit more. And it tastes amazing, right? I think, if you're drinking herbal tea because for the enjoyment factor, which is totally fine too. We think that's actually a way, if something tastes amazing, and in this case, it's the true taste of the plant, and that's your gateway in, that's your connection to plants and then ultimately to nature. That's wonderful, right? So peppermint is a real, I think, star when it comes to that whole sensory experiencing. And again, when you feel it work, then it makes you wonder, what else can these plants do? And big fan of mint. And I'm going to go up and see Trout Lake Farms in October. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to that.
What will they be harvesting when you're there? Do you know?
Not sure, actually. I maybe roots, maybe echinacea roots. So we also source our echinacea from them. But
I've been to Trout Lake before. So from my understanding, they have like a West Washington farm and then an Eastern Washington. I went to the Western one, I want to say. And Wow, what a gorgeous farm. Are you going to get to meet Danielle while you're there? Do you know?
I think so. I've heard that name before.
Yeah.
Yes, we are going to the west one.
Okay. Yeah, you should get to meet Danielle then. Yeah. What an incredible operation over there. It's actually quite mind-blowing to see how they do it and what they do, and just fields and fields of flowers and herbs and everything. It's so amazing. I hope everyone gets an opportunity to see an herb farm like that someday, because they really do such an amazing job, and they're growing all organic from what I can tell.
Yes, all organic. And they're a partner with us in terms of our Fair for Life commitment. So for those that don't know, people heard of fair, fair trade, which is making sure, of course, as it says, that people are being paid and treated fairly for, what they're, in the case of agriculture, what they're growing, what they're producing. And Fair for Life is this holistic scheme where it's, fair for the people, fair for the land, fair for animals. It's basically looking at the supply chain kind of holistically. It really does incorporate social, environmental, and economic factors. And through this commitment, we're working towards having at least 80% of our portfolio Fair for Life by 2030. That's one of the ways that we, again, are showing that we really want to take care of the people in the land. It's like it promotes biodiversity. It's just this really beautiful model that I'm looking forward to kind of sharing more with the world on why it's so important. They're partners. Trout Lake is a partner of ours in kind of Fair for Life, and obviously, yes, organic.
Is it kind of like a industry standard to share, say, where you're getting some of these herbs? Because sometimes I want to say it feels like it's kind of this like proprietary thing, but you're out here just openly sharing the fact that you source from, say, Trout Lake. Do you do that with some of the other farms that you also get your herbs from, or is that just kind of one that you like to highlight?
That's one that we highlight because we've been working with them for, almost all of our history here. And we do, we definitely have like relationships with a lot of farmers, like most of our farmers. We have that transparency back to, where do these herbs come from? We have boots on the ground. We have agronomists that are out there helping to train the growers and the wild harvesters, just continue to evolve their knowledge and training. But they're not like branded farms, so to speak. Right. So, we can say that we're getting wild harvested raspberry leaf from Albania, but it's like throughout the hills of Albania,
Sure.
It's not like a single operation, but yeah, there's it just depends. A lot of these, the way it works is you have a lot of growers, or wild harvesters that are kind of working cooperatively. They work they kind of, contribute their product towards a bigger cooperative, and then it kind of moves up the supply chain from there. So it's very complex. I would say, being at Traditional Medicinals, where we source over 80 individual herbs, and about 30% of that is wild, 70% cultivated. It's very different than trying to source commodity ingredients. That's, if you're trying to get vitamin C, well, vitamin C is generally vitamin C and is produced in mass quantities. If you're trying to source an herb, obviously, that is susceptible to climate forces, geopolitical, and even just making sure that people still want to engage in the land in this way. A lot of, younger generations are losing interest in that kind of lifestyle and livelihood. And so we have to continue to find ways to engage them. And sourcing expertise with people like Joseph Brinkman, if you're familiar with him.
No.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he's he's been with traditional medicinals since the early days. Kind of have done a little bit of other things in between, but he is one of the, I'd say, world experts on sustainable supply chains for herbs, and has been forming relationships with the farmers and very committed to kind of our mission of fair treatment of people and animals. He was very much a driving force in creating the panda safe Schisandra.
Oh, wow.
Or panda friendly, sorry.
Sure.
Yeah, worked basically with the government of China to create panda friendly certification, and we have that on our Schisandra berries. So he's done a lot of good in the world.
I'll have to have a chat with him someday. Sourcing is no easy task. Just working at Mountain Rose Herbs for over a decade, I had the easy task of working in events and marketing and whatnot. When I would always see my colleagues in the sourcing herbs department, they always had a challenge. And I just want to ask you, dear listener, if say traditional medicinals or Mountain Rose Herbs or whoever's out of stock of something, it's difficult to keep all of these different herbs in stock because of, everything that Taryn was just talking about, the geopolitical stuff, the environmental stuff, and all of the above. So,
and TikTok.
And TikTok, puts a lot of herbs out of stock when something goes viral.
Totally. Yeah. It's good when, we love that more, again, as we were saying earlier, the more that people kind of discover things like raspberry leaf or lemon balm or nettle, which has also become quite popular. It's fantastic. But then, you often have to give your partners, your grower producer partners 2 to 3 years of advance notice. And so if something just all of a sudden pops up, well, that leaves you and them kind of scrambling to get that supply. And then we also want to make sure that it's kind of a steady commitment. It's not just a blip on the radar. It's hard to, plant a field and then convert it because people, maybe got tired of that herb. But,
right.
Yeah.
Big challenges. I did want to plug our new presenting sponsor here at the Herbalist Hour is Oshala Farm. I don't know if you all work with them or not, but they're doing amazing work. And I remember asking, who was it? Someone on the Herbalist Hour, I said, what does the herbal industry need most right now? And their answer was, we need more herb growers.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that answer, but you're right. It doesn't seem so appealing for a lot of people to be doing that work anymore. But I'll kind of put that question on you, Taryn. If I were to ask you, what does the herbal industry need most right now, besides more herbalists, what would you say to that?
I think more transparency and kind of really wanting to make sure that we know where the herbs come from. And that, again, the people in the land are being taken care of. It's such a precious, I don't even like to say resource because it's right. Like they're not there for us to resource, but it is something that, these are plants that have so much to offer us in terms of our health, but also to the health of the planet, and when you think about kind of conservation and what can people do, I personally often feel like, gosh, powerless and I want to do something to help protect the planet or to make sure that there's care given in some way. And when we kind of purchase or, engage with products that are committed to taking care of the land, making sure that it's being used in a way that promotes biodiversity, that sequesters carbon, that regenerates the soil, like that's really good. We are having a positive impact. And especially wild harvested plants, when we can partner with the land, when we can get people to engage with the land in a way that it promotes allows for a livelihood that is providing kind of, again, this holistic circle of good, well, that is going to allow that land to not be developed, to not be turned over. So yeah, let's partner. How do we get people to partner with the land and take care of it? And so again, I think it's great when people get excited about herbs, but we need to make sure that we respect the fact that they come from the earth, and therefore we have to take care of the earth so that they can take care of us.
Amen.
Yeah.
Very well said. I saw on your LinkedIn account that you went to an event, and I was just wondering if you could talk about your experience with it. It was called Cultivating Food as Medicine for Public Health. And I want to say it had something to do with the White House.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of curious if you could tell us what that was about and what your role was there.
Yeah, that was a super interesting opportunity back in June, back in Boston, which is where I'm from originally. Right. And it was an event. So the White House has a strategy that is looking at how to basically address hunger and kind of some of these chronic diseases that plague us through food as medicine, which is beautiful. And so there were a number of scientists and other activists and folks that were there to kind of advise the White House on different ways that they could think about, using food as medicine in activation of that strategy, and in looking at some of those, government programs that are already in existence, and how do you kind of up level those. And then from kind of the private sector, which is where, I was representing traditional medicinals, it's like, how do we build awareness? Like, what is our role to play in helping to, activate this strategy, even if it's indirectly, even if it's kind of like, again, bringing people into herbal medicine so that they are aware of the benefits. And that's one way that they can kind of participate in that whole, movement. And so it's pretty exciting to think that that's how the White House is thinking about health and nutrition. And there was a lot of interesting people there.
I bet.
Was it Tufts? Yeah.
Were you the lone traditional medicinals person there, or did someone go with you?
I was. But I definitely had quite a few people come up to me and, express gratitude for TM being there, and excited about kind of the role that we can all play in this movement.
Well, it does seem like times are changing. And could you imagine if all the schools had, giant containers full of nourishing herbal infusions? What a cheap way to get plants and minerals into all of the students' bodies. I would love to see something like that.
Oh yeah. I mean, we've since I've been there, we've really been thinking more about expanding education, right? And because that really was one of Rosemary's primary reasons for wanting to start traditional medicinals is, Drake was very much about the social and environmental activism piece. And she was very much about the education piece. Is that bag of traditional medicinals tea. At the time it was loose leaf, but it had all this information on it, all this here's what the herbs do. Right. So how do you educate people? And so we've been really exploring on a deeper level, how do we continue to forward this mission of education? And it's really important to our business. And so thinking about engaging the youth in herbs, which they're already so excited, like I said, about that's where they're so open to learning about plants and they're naturally drawn to it. I think that can be a really profound way to start that relationship early. So and I have to say my son, I have two kids. My son has been drinking tea with me since he was quite young. Always, asks for the cup of tea at night, usually chamomile, but
that's my daughter's favorite too.
Yeah. And he's he will say things like, I'm feeling anxious. I need some herbs. I love that. But, my daughter, who's 16, she's not quite so believing in everything that I have to say, skeptical, but
she'll come around.
She'll come around. Yeah.
She has to.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely want to ask this question as we're wrapping up. We still have another 10 or 15 minutes or so, but I want to be sure to get this one in. If you were to give, say, any sort of like business advice to maybe like, say, a smaller tincture company or, someone with just like a smaller herbal line. I know you have roots in entrepreneurship and startups and whatnot. Do you just have any, like, say, inspirational or general business advice for someone who's trying to build and grow their own business?
I would say, like, focus in on just a few things that you can do really well. Don't try to boil the ocean from the start, because it might get watered down. So I think the idea of really setting kind of your values, like what are your brand values, and then, building from there. That's what you want to deliver on. And of course, what is your unique proposition or point of differentiation? That's always fun to kind of, I do love innovation is my passion. And so it's always like, how do you create that spark of wonder for people that's makes what you have to offer special, and the story behind it. And you can really kind of hone that story by owning it and knowing it really well. Just like as an herbalist, we are often, advised you don't have to know 100 herbs, right? It's actually, pick a dozen that are your like closest homies that you work with and do that really well. And so I think instead of trying to be everything to everyone, really carve out that niche of what you have to offer that you feel really excited about and you can do really well.
That's such good advice. That's exactly how HerbRally started too. Was we were essentially the herbal community's event board, and that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to share all of the different herbalism events that was going on, and then slowly over the time adding new elements and components and whatnot. And I think I was able to stay focused a lot more that way as well. So that's really great advice. Thanks, Taryn.
Of course, yeah, and I love seeing people do those things in the world, like put new products out there and even if it is at a small scale. I think the idea of finding your audience, even if it's at a local level, like that can be really powerful. And, traditional medicinals we're providing herbs for the masses, right? I mean, I think the latest statistic is every second 50 cups of traditional medicinals tea is brewed. There it is.
That's awesome.
You got one right there in your hand. So
funny.
that's like powerful. That's like at scale. And we have to do things a certain way to make sure that we can continue to provide that level of volume of herbs in the world. But even on a local level or as an individual, as a way to kind of, think about sourcing your herbs as like, I want the best quality and I'm going to have great respect for how I harvest this plant, or, how much of it I take, only taking what I need, all those similar principles come into play. Just at a different level, and making sure you have the right plant too.
Right. That's crucial. That's what you're there for. To make sure you're getting the right plants and whatnot. Well, this is like you said, a classic tea at traditional medicinals, the nighty night. But like you said, innovation is one of your passions. Is that kind of what you do? You research and develop new products, and then when you do say research and develop a new product, do they stick around, or are they kind of like seasonal, or how does that work?
Well, generally, if you're going to put a lot of work, and it does take a lot of work to launch a product, it's best if it has longevity.
Yeah, totally.
So, we have a very strong seasonal portfolio in terms of like, our throat coat and breathe easy and, cold care products. So there's actually a thing called tea season, right? And I didn't know this until coming to work at Traditional Medicinals, but it is the time when people consume more tea throughout the year. And it's, makes sense. It's when it gets colder, starts
fall and winter. Yeah.
Yeah. Goes through, I believe, April. But that is when you see a spike in tea sales. And a lot of it tends to be, yes, like, people are starting to feel run down. And so they start to look for things to boost up their immune system and whatnot. But we're actually really interested in getting people to engage with herbs throughout the year and not just think of it for like an acute need, but how can they partner with herbs to support, again, things like sleep and mood and, all of these beautiful herbs, lemon balm, support their digestion with dandelion. And so I think, as we think about innovation, it's very much how do you continue to bring people on this wellness journey and kind of broaden opportunities for people to engage in herbs. And because, again, if we're going to set up a supply chain of a new herb, we want to make sure that opportunity is big enough and real. Like we really actually put a lot into understanding the consumer. Like we'll do consumer research and ask about like their needs and interests and everything from kind of hero herbs, the ones that get called out on the front, to the way that the packaging looks. Like all of that is really fun. We dig in on all of it to see what's going to resonate most with the consumer. So yeah, and yes, that piece of, again, what do you put out into the world and how you ultimately want it to be something that lives on. But truthfully, most innovation dies,
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why it's really hard to be an entrepreneur. And that's why it's like a brand like TM that's been around for 50 years and is like what we call a legacy brand. When you look at the history, the portfolio and, what's come and gone throughout the years, there's a lot that's been left behind, but that's okay too. Sometimes these products have their moment in time. And then, again, whether it's the herb isn't available or consumers, aren't really engaging with, I don't know, tea, like black tea as much, then you might have to change courses. And so you have to be flexible and nimble and, of course, always be dreaming up new things, which I think my team does really, really well.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun to do as well. How many people work at Traditional Medicinals?
The exact number, I might not get exact, but
a rough estimate.
Yeah, I mean, if you include all the folks at the manufacturing plant, sure. I think it's around 200.
Okay, yeah.
But my team, I have about 40 people.
Oh, wow. That's huge.
Yeah. But that's quality. That's
You're right.
QA, QC, sanitation. That's supplier quality. That's, again, research and development and innovation.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, a lot of, just an incredible team. We have ethnobotanists, chemists, food scientists, naturopath, herbalists. It's quite the talent.
Yeah, I want to say David Hoffman worked there at some point.
He still does consulting work as part of our internal education program with Guido Massé. Guido does. He's our lead formulator for the tea products. So that's a lot of fun, and it's a gift to be able to work with him as well.
Awesome. Well, let's wrap it up with some get to know Taryn questions. I'm going to ask, let's see, what is one of your random hobbies outside of the realm of, say, health and wellness and herbalism?
Random. Well, I don't know how random it is, but I did just start beekeeping.
Oh, that counts. That's pretty random. No, it's awesome.
I mean, it's kind of that continuation of,
Totally.
of course, the relationship between plants and bees, and it's a
That's
little
so cool.
intimidating, I have to say.
I bet.
I get a little nervous opening up that hive. Gotten stung a few times, and it's that thing. It's constantly buzzing in my backyard, but I'm about ready to harvest a little honey, so I'm excited about that.
That's so exciting. And yeah, when the bees are around and buzzing, it just feels so alive. Like
Oh yeah.
that's really cool.
And you see them coming in with their little pollen packs on,
Totally. Do you think you'll get to harvest anything else besides honey, like say the propolis or the bee pollen or anything like that?
I don't really know how just
Okay.
yet. But,
one step at a time. You're just getting going.
Yeah. Are you a beekeeper?
No, I suspect that'll be way down the line. We've got a 0.1 acre yard, so it's pretty small. But one of these days I would love to. But in the meantime, I really appreciate just seeing them all over the neighborhood and whatnot. But
yeah, I know my kids don't like it so much. They're like, "Why are these bees in our yard?" I said, they're friends.
Yeah, heck yeah. Well, let's do a little rapid fire round. You could take as long or as little on each one of these questions as you want. There's about 6 of them, I want to say.
Okay.
So who is one of your favorite singers or bands of all time?
I don't know. You said just Band of Horses popped into my mind. Which I like them.
I know them.
Yeah.
Are you an introvert or extrovert?
I'd say I lean more towards introvert. Yeah. But I love also being in community. So,
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a good balance.
Yeah.
What's your spirit animal?
Jaguar.
Cool.
But a coyote too. So I live in Marin County, and the hills that surround me are it's like called the open space hills, and it's just beautiful grasslands, but then also old oaks and madrone. Not the redwoods where in my backyard I can access them pretty easily, but
awesome.
I run the trails, and I often feel that like there's coyotes everywhere out there, and I often feel and see them, and feel that.
That's awesome. So you're a runner then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever gone on a run with Guido? I know he's an avid runner.
Yeah. So we have this team and training group at TM, and it's people that want to like run and hike, and we are doing a company run. Whoever wants to participate in October, cool. And he's going to be out. He's going to be in town for that. So yeah, I will have.
That's awesome. All right, a couple more. Favorite movie genre?
Comedy.
Same. Do you have any nicknames?
I mean, T is the most common one.
I was going to say, is it T Money?
Just T.
Okay.
T. Yeah. Which actually works well for this assignment.
Right? Yeah. Amen. If you were to write a book, what would it be about?
I don't know. I mean, I think for me, I am really about that wonder, that like, how do you create wonder in people by bringing in the combination of the science and the tradition? And, I mean, I very much like Stephen Buhner. I love his work. I think he does a really good job of marrying kind of spirit with science.
Totally.
And so something in that vein, but also just like the more that you can kind of, I think, and like kind of plant these little seeds of wonder in people, the more it helps them engage in their connection with nature. And I'm very much about that.
Love that. Well, that's it for the rapid fire round.
Okay.
You did great. You did great, Taryn. Any particular products you want to plug for traditional medicinals that you're maybe excited about, or?
I mean, it's still summer, so having some nice iced lemon balm tea, I highly recommend people do that.
Me too.
Yeah, that one. And yeah, I think, Nighty Night is something I think everyone's looking for ways to.
I'm feeling good, by the way. This is awesome.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And nettle too. I think, and by the way, lemon balm nettle combination is also really good. So, just kind of, I'm thinking now about just actually after doing a run, I will often brew up some nettle tea to kind of help with kind of that restoration and all of those minerals that come with it. So yeah, maybe thinking about nettle and lemon balm as those refreshing allies for the hot weather.
Amen. Good tips. Well, I haven't said the website yet, but I'm sure a lot of the audience already knows, but it's traditionalmedicinals.com. Check out all of their wonderful products. Can't believe it's been around for 50 years now. That's quite the testament to, like you said, the legacy brand that Traditional Medicinals is. But it was really nice to get to know you a little bit more, Taryn, or actually just to meet you in general. And
yes.
Like you said, I've got a whole list of questions here. Maybe we could do a round two, like you said, at a later date. I would love to talk formulation and whatnot. But before we wrap up, did you have any closing thoughts?
I'm just so thrilled to be able to be here and share this story. And I thank you for all the work that you're doing in the world. And you're reaching a lot of people. And I'm just thrilled to have the opportunity to partner with you in this hour. So thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Learned a lot. You know what? Sometimes when I'm doing these interviews, I get so caught up in, say, the conversation or my own thoughts that it's almost even more pleasurable for me to go back when I'm editing it, that I get to re-listen to some of the answers. But I know you really brought it today, Taryn. So thanks for sharing a lot of the insight and the herbal industry in general. I'm really excited for your visit to Trout Lake Farm. I think you're going to be blown away. It's awesome. But thanks, Taryn, for joining me. And thanks to you, dear listener, for listening as always. And we'll see you in the next episode of the Herbalist Hour. And that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the HerbRally podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us here at HerbRally, we now have a text message community, believe it or not. Basically, it's just updates from us. We send about 1 to 7 texts per week, notifying you about new events, videos, courses, podcasts. You get the idea. It's pretty much like our email newsletter, just in text form. So if you'd like to receive text messages from HerbRally, just text JOIN, that's JOIN, to the number 541-256-2895. Again, that's JOIN to number 541-256-2895. And to stop receiving texts, that's easy too. Just text STOP to the same number. It'll opt you out immediately. Okay, thanks again for listening. Have a great rest of your day.